Good morning. My name is Jeff Sargo. Many of you know me as the owner of Central Heat and Air and Robinson Roofing down on Stockton Street here in Sonora. Today I am here representing the Tuolumne County Alliance for Resources and the Environment, better known as TuCare. If you're not familiar with TuCare, you'll find a brochure in your pamphlet that we just handed out that goes over the educational programs that TuCare offers. And I think you'll find it instructional. As you may know, TuCare is an active participant in the wise use movement. We believe that we can and should use the bountiful resources that God has blessed us with, and at the same time that we can and should be good stewards of those resources. TuCare has been fighting for your rights to use those resources for over 30 years. We are the largest grassroots organization in the county, and if you're not a member, we invite you to join and help us with this work. We're going to watch a short video now. It's on the Camp Fire that took out Paradise, California, and the Washington Fire here in Sonora.
And then there was a point in there where the wind just kind of started picking up. And the spot fires that were not a big deal at the time started engulfing both sides of the road.
By 7:30, the fire had picked up. The wind was spraying burning embers in every direction. A column of smoke was now visible for miles. At the incident command post, Chief Messina was aware this was becoming a major fire.
Just be ready to call in personnel that are off duty right now.
But with firefighters in Concow trapped and aircraft unable to fly because of the wind, he didn't know how fast it was moving.
What was different about this day, it was the fact that as soon as our firefighters engaged, they went right into rescue mode. And they were no longer able, nor did they really care where the fire was spreading. They were too busy on rescuing civilians and ensuring that of their own safety. So we didn't get a lot of intelligence on how fast the fire was spreading.
In the past, fires have rarely crossed the canyon. But the Camp Fire was now spreading at a rate of 80 football fields a minute.
All units, be advised, the town of Paradise is under a mandatory evacuation. The town of Paradise is under a mandatory evacuation.
The fire was swirling around the houses. It was coming in at all angles, defying any sense of gravity or any sense of, in my mind, what would be normal for a fire. Too much was happening, too much was going on, and we were not able to do more than just a couple of handful of streets.
For the moment, yes.
Everybody's clear. All the patients are out from downstairs.
You rock.
I don't know about staff, but we got them all out.
Okay, very good.
There was people that were having to carry an IV bag with them, that were holding their own IV bag. And then we had people that were just coming out of surgery that had to be loaded up.
No availability of ambulances to Sonora River Hospital. We have fire on campus now, and I need ambulances.
Doctors pulled up with their SUVs and were putting patients in with doctors.
Perfect. Are you helping get people out of here? Yeah. Okay. Hang a hard right.
And nurses are driving their own private vehicles and taking out their car seats and leaving them on the side of the hospital ground. It wasn't a normal evacuation that we've been planning and rehearsing. It was so fast.
What was that? We got room for one more right here as well.
With anywhere from a few minutes to 15, 20 minutes, everything around the hospital was burning and on fire. It went black real quick. It felt like working a night shift.
Is it safe to stand here like this? I don't know if it's safe anywhere. We're gonna lose the hospital.
In less than an hour, the fire swept across the town of Paradise, overwhelming the firefighters' efforts to stop it.
And those winds can push those embers a long ways. And it just kind of perpetuates into one big fire at once. There was no flaming front.
But in this fire, winds high up to 100 miles an hour were blowing the embers sideways.
The wind aloft that lofted the embers was a lot stronger wind than the wind at the surface. And that's what allowed it to throw fireballs all over our town.
County S-15, good to open up both lanes and get everybody out. Pearson and Sawmill need to stop all traffic. Planes, get people moving now.
We conceded, I can tell you, it was 9:23 in the morning. We conceded that maintaining the evacuation routes and civilian rescue was our only objective that day.
Cell phone towers went down. The networks were so clogged that we couldn't get through it. It was an event that literally outpaced all of our resources almost immediately, literally outpaced all of the planning that had been done prior to this.
And my car's starting to fill up with smoke at that point. And I told my husband, I'm like, the car's filling up with smoke. I have to get out of the car. And he's like, get out and run. And I'm like, I can't get out and run. You don't understand. There's fire everywhere and I can't run through fire. And he said, you're gonna have to.
Are you trapped?
Yes.
Is your... Okay.
They were coughing, choking. She had a hard time even telling me exactly where they were.
Ma'am, you need to get out of the house.
We can't. Every door's on fire, please.
It started getting real staticky, and I had no response. I was talking to myself, and after 9 minutes and something, the phone went dead.
It took only 4 hours for Paradise to be destroyed. 85 people perished in the Camp Fire. The majority were over 65 years old. Some were trapped in their cars, others were still in their homes.
Everything was perfect that day for a massive destructive incident to do what it did, and it's in place everywhere in California, Arizona, Nevada, Washington, Oregon. And it's like, you don't even want to think about it. Like, what's next? Can it be worse than that? And the answer is yes.
So as you're processing what you've just seen, I want you to consider this. What happened in Paradise can happen here in Sonora. That's right, it can happen here too. It almost happened on August 26th. And you have to ask her, what's the difference? Why didn't Sonora burn to the ground like Paradise? And it's a one-word answer, wind. They had lots of it, and we didn't have any. The Camp Fire was a wind-driven event. In Paradise, the wind was pushing those flames forward at incredible speeds and launching embers far out in front of the flames, starting spot fires. And the problem with high winds is the air attack is grounded. No bombers dropping retardant, no helicopters ferrying crews or water or retardant, and probably worst of all, no spotter plane relaying information on fire behavior to the ground commanders. Once they ground the aircraft, all you have is ground crews and ground equipment, and they're working blind because they don't know what's happening with that fire. On August 26th here in Sonora, there wasn't even a breeze. The smoke column was rising straight up in the air. No wind at all. The Washington fire was a fuels-driven fire. With the Columbia Air Base here, we had access to immediate air power. The Arola fire was still going, and so we had aircraft in the area. And when the fire bosses saw that the potential for catastrophic fire here in downtown Sonora, they diverted everything they had to the Washington fire. That air attack stopped that fire from burning up over Signal Hill and into Gibbs Ranch or Rancho Sonora Estates, or through Sonora Knolls and through Sonora High School and on out to Columbia. They stopped the fire from going west through Valponi Acres, or south through Millville and Mobile Estates, or east over Knolls Hill into downtown Sonora. And yes, along with a hand crew from Bear Valley, which you saw in the video, they stopped it from burning my business down. Had they not stopped it there, that fire would have run on up Woods Creek, along Southgate, past the fairgrounds, and right into downtown Sonora. We dodged a major bullet that day. We all saw what the Washington fire did with no wind and tremendous air attack. Just imagine results if the wind speeds had been high enough to ground the aircraft. That fire would have done catastrophic damage to Sonora no matter which way the wind blew it. And the truth is, we could not have stopped it. We need to stop thinking about wildfires being up there or out there in the forest. We are surrounded by and live in a landscape of incredible fire fuels that have grown up and choked the open land around our homes and throughout our communities. We need to think about wildfire as being right here in the city where we live. Will a catastrophic fire like Paradise happen again? Of course it will. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and where. And it could be just as bad or worse if we aren't prepared. It's hard to imagine the effect an event like that would have on our lives. I had an employee who lived in Paradise before the Camp Fire. Todd's house burned down, the business he worked for burned down, the bank he deposited his paychecks in burnt down, as did the grocery store he shopped at, the school his children attended, and that hospital you saw in the video where his children were born. His town is gone now. And now, so is he. He and thousands of others like him have had to move, start a whole new life elsewhere. So think about this for a second. How long is it going to be before Paradise is a town again or a community again? And if that happened here in Sonora, how long would it be before Sonora was a community again? How many of our friends and neighbors would have to move away, start new lives, and be lost to us virtually forever? This is very serious business we're dealing with, and don't think it can't happen here. People in the Oakland Hills didn't think it could happen there either. Just look around us. You know, the Camp Fire took out Paradise, the Butte Fire took out a big chunk of Calaveras County. The Bear Fire decimated the Plumas National Forest a little farther north. And then if you look a little further north of that, you've got the Dixie, the Caldor, and the Bootleg fires, some of the largest in history. And those landscapes will not be for us again in our lifetime. That's a pretty sobering thought. We dodged a bullet with the Rim Fire. It got huge, but we were lucky that it didn't burn into any of our communities. Here's another fact to think about. Sonora has a history of burning to the ground. It's been a long time, but it has happened. It is time for action. So the question is, what can we do to minimize the impact a wildfire will have on our community and on our lives? First off, get personally prepared. Develop a plan and share that plan with your family. If you have to evacuate, what are you going to take with you? And will that change if you're at home or at work or just out and about? And how about your kids at school? What's the situation there? Or your elderly parents or elderly neighbors, how are you going to help them get out? These are things that have to be thought about and planned out. Next question is, how will you escape? Here in Tuolumne County, we are not in a great situation as far as evacuation routes. If you live up the hill from Sonora, you are pretty much guaranteed to be routed onto Highway 108 to get out. And that little fire, the Washington fire, stopped 108 dead. There was no traffic allowed past that point. There are some back roads that will be alternative routes, but as we all know, the locals are going to clog those up right away. Are you better off, in an open field that has no fuels that are going to burn up around you? Are you better off in a large parking lot? Of the 85 people that died in the campfire in Paradise, a significant number of those died in their cars from smoke inhalation. They were trying to escape, but they were stopped in traffic. When the Washington fire, we were told to evacuate Sonora, we had almost instant gridlock downtown. Something we need to think about. Next thing, prepare your home for the next fire. Clean up and ember harden your home and property. Find out what to do, go online and watch videos. There's an abundance of information available. One from the University of Nevada, Reno Extension called Be Ember Prepared is excellent. But there are others available from the NFPA, the U.S. Forest Service, CAL FIRE, Fire Safe Marin even has some great videos. There's lots of information available. Just look at it, find out what to do, and get the work done. And then check out your neighbor's property. Not only from the perspective of what damage is going to be done to their house and their home, but also look at it from the point of view of what damage their house burning could cause to your property. And then look at the vacant land around you that can be a threat to everyone in the neighborhood. If your community is a fire-wise community, get involved and help get the work done. If it's not, organize one and set it up and get the work done to protect your community. If you've got acreage, run sheep or goats or cows or horses on it to keep it cleaned up after you do the work and get it cleaned up. This is an ongoing event. This stuff keeps growing and we have to get ahead of it. Just think of the grass and the brush and small trees as stored up energy. It's been building up for 50 to 100 years since the last time it burned. All that energy is going to be released at one time when we have a fire. Or you can be proactive and take action now, remove those fuels, and remove enough fuel so that we can stop the fire and put it out. We need to restore our surroundings to be as close as possible to they were when fire regularly burned through here, and keep that fuels loading down. So plan ahead, decide on your escape routes, escape options, prepare your home, help your neighbor prepare their home, and then get your neighborhood ready, because it will happen. TuCare has been educating about and promoting the wise use of natural resource for over 30 years, since 1988. The care and management of those resources must include the reduction of the threat of catastrophic fire to our forests, our communities, our businesses, our homes, and our lives. We would not be fulfilling our mission if we don't step up and help our neighbors and friends protect the place we call home. TuCare's board has realized and recognized that the #1 threat to our community is fire, and we're doing something about it. TuCare is utilizing presentations like this to educate about the need for and raise funds for the Community Wildfire Protection Fund. This work is a joint effort between TuCare and the Sonora Area Foundation. TuCare will educate the public and help raise funds. The Sonora Area Foundation will hold and distribute the money that is raised for the projects that are approved. We are working with local fire agencies to identify and fund strategic projects that will provide the most protection for our community. Our goal is to help fund projects that can't be funded any other way. We want to help private landowners engage in this and get the work done and reduce this threat to our community. Some good work is being done and has been done, but we need more, much, much more. We need to make the community aware and get the community behind this effort. Just look around where you live. Gullies choked with fuel, overgrown vacant land, hillsides thick with brush and small trees. All that stored up energy, just ripe for a catastrophic fire. And although I should have known better, I never considered that brush-covered hillside between my shop and the bypass as a threat to my business. But those 100-foot tall flames you saw in that video with the metal building, which is my shop, spoke otherwise. So what's the land surrounding your house or your business look like? Will the energy stored there be the source of the fire that takes your place out? Shaded fuel breaks with ground fuels and ladder fuels removed must replace the dense vegetation we see all around us. Local examples of some shaded fuel breaks that have been created recently are behind the hospital in Sonora Plaza up on top of the hill 2 or 3 years ago that was cleared out, and another project behind Sonora High School and on over to Racetrack Road that was just recently done. The Tuolumne County Fire Safe Council has been working on projects to create a 27-mile-long, 1-mile-wide fire break around our communities. And you can see where that is in the map that's included in your packets. It's time for action, folks. Join with TuCare and participate in funding the Community Wildfire Protection Fund. In the folder you received, there's a card explaining how you can make donations. If you know others who are willing to make donations to the Community Wildfire Protection Fund, let them know about it and get them motivated. It's going to take some money to do this. Make checks payable to Sonora Area Foundation with a notation for they are for the CWPF. Of course, donations to the Community Wildfire Protection Fund are tax deductible. And this is a must-do job for all of us, and we can get it done. But if we don't get started now, it'll be too late when the next fire starts. Join us. Let's get this work done now before that fire starts. Because, you know, if you and I aren't willing to make the investment to protect the place we call home, who will be? Thank you.